Hey guys, what's up? It's Dan again from CryptoCamacho.com. And hey guys, today I want to talk about data. I want to talk about data because I think it's so important to understand data, big data in 2018, right? And how it relates to cryptocurrencies, how it relates to blockchain. I think that entire industries have been transformed by the data they've generated by their user base in general, right? Think of YouTube, think of Amazon, think of Facebook, think of Google. All of the biggest companies in the world today are data companies, right? So knowing that the biggest companies in the world today are essentially data companies, I would ask, what industries today have an exponential growth of data? Like what industries do we look at today that we can project and see like an enormous growth curve, an enormous potential and opportunity to grow data, to start building these massive databases? Like what industries are those, right? I mean, YouTube is obviously one, Amazon is obviously one, so e-commerce and on the internet, there's a number of industries that kind of fit in this category. Obviously, the Internet of Things is another big data generator. The topic I want to talk about today, though, and the ICO that I want to talk about today, it's not as sexy as maybe some of the other ICOs that I've talked about, but I think that it's kind of behind the scenes. It's really positioning itself to explode in the next 5, 10, 15 years. And that's really because of the amount of data that's being generated by this particular industry, by this particular, by this particular industry that is now just exploding like crazy. And what am I talking about, guys? I am talking about genetics. I'm talking about genetic data. I'm talking about genomics data or biological data that we are generating now at an unprecedented pace. I mean, the amount of data that's being generated by genetics laboratories, by genomics laboratories around the world is quite astonishing, to be honest. I mean, it is gotten to the point where geneticists and scientists don't even know how they're going to actually store the amount of data that they're generating from these projects, right? And so if you know anything about genetics, if you know anything about the genome, the Human Genome Project, it's essentially where a group of scientists mapped the human genome for the first time, like in 2000, right? Like 2000, 2001, they mapped the entire human genome. Now the technology is becoming more viable to where we can map multiple people's genomes. We can map animals' genomes, plant genomes. We can actually start modifying genomes and modifying genetics in different creatures. And the data that's being generated by studying this, by mapping genomes, it is unprecedented. I mean, just looking at Google, I mean, if you search for Google, sequencing the genome, in data and how much data it's generating, you're going to see articles like this. Sequencing the genome creates so much data, we don't know what to do with it. And this is an entire article, and there are many, many articles about this, right? That genetics data is increasing so rapidly that scientists now are having a difficult time even understanding and figuring out how they can actually store this data appropriately, effectively, and make it easy to access and sort and be private and secure and all these kind of things, right? I mean, if you look at different articles, genetic data will take up more space than YouTube in 10 years, right? This was published in July 2015, so the article's a bit old, but even back then, they're projecting that in 10 years, genetic data could generate anywhere between 2 and 40 exabytes per year at minimum. And that's 2 million times what your home computer can hold, right? So there's kind of this overwhelming amount of data that's being generated by genetics, right? And if you just search for genetics data privacy, you're also going to start looking at topics that come up like why DNA testing companies' terrifying privacy policies actually mean. Privacy in genetics, privacy delusions of genetic testing. And there's going to be these kind of issues that come up about genetic testing, about giving your genetic data over to others to do testing for you, right? And what are they going to do with that data? How are they going to store that data? Are they going to sell that data? So forth and so on. So it's becoming a much bigger issue now that we've seen in the past, right? And if you go to companies like Ancestry.com or 23andMe, you can actually explore your genome, explore your DNA by taking a DNA test for $100 and getting kind of results back of the diseases you may be predisposition to, the ideal diet for your DNA makeup, so forth and so on. If you go over to 23andMe, you're going to see kind of the same thing, right? It's genetic testing, and this is really a company that's been sponsored and funded by Google, but it's essentially genetic and DNA testing to give you information about your ancestry or about your health and predispositions to diseases and so forth, right? But the big question comes up is, how are these companies, 23andMe, Ancestry.com, how are these companies storing the DNA data that they're generating from your DNA, right? From your genetics, from your genome? Like, what are they doing with this data? Are they selling it? Absolutely, they're selling it. In the future, when it becomes more feasible and realistic to actually, modify genomes and whatnot, are you scared that your DNA on file with 23andMe can be used, for things that you don't necessarily want it intended to be used? I mean, it's now possible to create diseases specifically for a particular genome, right? So what that means in the future is that a disease can be created specifically for you and only you based on your DNA, based on your genes and your genetics, right? That's pretty scary stuff. I mean, it's pretty scary that companies like 23andMe and Ancestry.com, they're just saying, hey, we want to give you your ancestry, we want to give you your, health reports on, what your genes are telling us. But this data is being stored. It's not like just being thrown away after they're using it, right? They're going to use it to sell it and so forth. So what I want to talk about today, after kind of getting all of that background out of the way, I want to talk about genetics, genomes, data, big data, and as it relates to cryptocurrency and blockchain, right? There are a number of companies now popping up that are trying to build out big, massive, decentralized databases and applications that will essentially secure and privatize all of this genetic and DNA information that's being generated. And that's going to continue to be generated at a very, very fast and exponential pace in the years to come, right? We're making really good, strong and profound, moves in the direction of genetic biology, programming genes, synthetic genetics, synthetic biology, things like that. So what I want to talk about really today is a company called Shivome.io. So Shivome, it's a genetics company, it's a data company really, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to build out a decentralized database to really secure and privatize your genetic data, right? Genetic data that's being generated. They're trying to create a home for that genetic data where it's a secure environment that can be distributed around the world, that can't be hacked, that can't be used for nefarious purposes, so forth and so on. And so this is why I like Shivome. I think that it's kind of under the radar. I think that not a lot of people talk about genetics in cryptocurrency. Not a lot of people talk about how blockchain can actually solve a lot of the really challenging problems that we're seeing for genetics companies, for scientists, for educational institutions that are researching genetics and so forth. And I think Shivome is really positioned really, really well to kind of eat up this space in the next few years. In their ICO, which is not live yet, they've raised $33 million in a private and pre-sale. Once they launch their ICO, you're going to start seeing other ICOs like this pop up, right? And it's really attractive to me because the potential of genetics and genetic data and creating a system to really operationalize how genetic data is used, whether among businesses, among individuals, among research firms, among educational institutions. There's really no kind of standard of how to use it today. And I think blockchain presents a really intriguing opportunity for genetics companies and scientists to be able to store and study that data with the consent of the person that gave up their freely, their DNA and genomic information freely, right? So Shivome is what I'm talking about today, guys. Let's kind of look at it right now. The public sale will be starting in 1 day. And you can see that they've already raised a ton of money. I mean, even just going to the bottom of this, before I even get into what the company does and whatnot, look at their Telegram profile, look at their Twitter profile, look at their Bitcoin Talk profile. They are getting massive amount of attention because it's such an important topic area, right? Just alone in their Telegram, we have 70,000 members, over 70,000 members. On Twitter, they have 47,000 members already, right? On their Bitcoin Talk forum, not so much, right? But it was only posted in March, right? And it's starting to accelerate quite rapidly. So what is Shivome, right? They're trying to create this database. Let's go back up to the top, and I could give you some more information. So the Shivome ecosystem, our massive precision medicine ecosystem, will provide space for other healthcare and wellness providers such as clinics, genomic counselors, pharmaceuticals, research organizations, governments, patient support groups, insurance companies to add their apps and services. So they're creating this ecosystem for all of these different types of groups to be able to store and to be able to tap into data that is genetic related, right? They will also be able to tap into this data to create applications and services based off of this data, but all of the data will be housed in the blockchain, so it'll be all secure, and you will essentially own the rights and permissions to that data, and you'll be able to give that permission to any others that may want to study that data, right? All right, so transform genomics data into knowledge, break down data silos and boost your clinical trials, collaborate to facilitate a wide range of multi-omics-based activities and drug R&D. I mean, what they're trying to do with this platform and ecosystem is crazy, crazy smart. They're trying to create this distributed, decentralized database for anyone in the world to be able to use, study, create applications from all of this data that's being generated by genetics, by genomics, right? Very, 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 very smart. I think this is going to have it's a significant use case for blockchain. I think you know, the scientists, the science community has been waiting for something like this for quite some time, and I think now we're on the cusp of creating something scalable that can service the genetics and scientific community who studies these types of things, right? So look at the team, check it out, check out this video, very, very informative. Look at their roadmap. I mean, it kind of, you know, goes without saying what they're trying to do. FAQs, describe the need and problem you are trying to solve. To make the direct-to-consumer genomics business more open, fair, and beneficial to all users, the Chavone platform uses blockchain technology to create a disruptive genomics ecosystem. It ensures data is owned by the data donors themselves, you and me. It ensures a transparent and secure bridge to organizations interested in using this data, right? So I can imagine companies like Chavone will partner with Ancestry.com, will partner with 23andMe, and other companies to make this more transparent in terms of what's happening with and to your data that's literally coming from your DNA and can have profound implications in the future. I mean, I'd wake up to this. Even if you're not interested in cryptocurrency, I just wake up to the fact that genetics is exploding, right? Your personal DNA, whatever you do with that, it's quite important, because in the years to come, we're going to be looking at things like programmable DNA, programmable biology, right? That's pretty crazy ideas to think about, but it's actually happening right before our eyes. Why is your idea revolutionary, Chavone? We have an entirely global vision with the goal of integrating multiple services into one interconnected ecosystem. We aim to leverage collaboration and partnerships to make this happen in an open and transparent way, truly utilizing the complete set of benefits that blockchain technology has to offer. While this is a grand vision, it is not entirely out of reach, and we have put together a business plan and team that's capable of executing this on a grand scale. This is a very, very ambitious vision. I think it's going to take some time to build this out. I don't think this is going to be one of the ICOs that you buy into and the next year you've gotten 1000x, right? But I do think that in 5 years' time, this is one of the companies and others, right, in this space that are literally going to explode. I mean, these are going to be some of the biggest companies of our generation that you're going to see pop up related to genetics. And what better kind of partnership and pairing opportunity than genetics and cryptocurrency, right? And blockchain. The two are kind of like a match made in heaven in a lot of ways, if you really think about it, right? Okay, why? What is the revenue and monetization model? Chavone will earn revenue through pharma companies who want to use the data to support their drug development programs. Additionally, consumers who want answers based on their uploaded DNA sequences will use the platform to purchase various healthcare apps for a nominal fee. Eventually, consumers will be able to order Chavone sequencing kits directly via the platform. All this can be done via the utility of the Omics token, right? So this is actually a very, 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 very important point right here, right? Chavone will earn revenue through pharma companies who want to use their data to support their drug development programs, right? We know that the pharmaceutical industry is a multi-trillion-dollar industry. I mean, it is one of the biggest, if not the biggest industry in the world, the pharmaceutical industry, right? They spend billions and trillions of dollars to do research from data, right? They're going to be using companies like Chavone to tap into the data that's being provided by people about their DNA to do more R&D, more drug treatment, development, so forth and so on. And that's going to make Chavone a very, very profitable company. I mean, that kind of goes without saying, right? But I think what's really interesting and really exciting is that consumers who want answers based on their DNA uploaded will be able to do so with this platform. So imagine, you've uploaded your DNA sequence to Chavone or to anywhere, right? And imagine every year new apps are being developed, new ways of analyzing that DNA are being developed, new ways of maybe even modifying that DNA are being developed, right? You're going to be able to tap into a platform like Chavone and say, I actually want to use this app to understand how my DNA can be used to create the ideal health plan or meal plan or exercise plan for me, and literally create a custom application or iPhone app or whatever app you want that's tailored specifically to your DNA. I mean, for the sky is the limit, really. It's literally building kind of decentralized apps on a platform that is married with genetic data. So imagine kind of marrying a GitHub with a genetics type of database with the ability to create apps from that data and share those apps specifically for you. I mean, I think this goes very, very deep and very far, and I don't want to get into like philosophical implications and ethics, implications and societal implications, but this is big. This is a very, very big idea. It's a very profound idea. It's a very transformative idea that will disrupt many, many, many industries, right? So anyway, I'm bullish on Chavome. I think we need it. I think it's a very interesting idea. I think it's a very, very powerful idea. It talks about how they're going to collect DNA. They're going to collect DNA from, things like Ancestry.com, 23andMe, which I've already said. They're going to get that data and enable others to create applications based off of that data that consumers may want to do whatever they want about their DNA data, right? Okay, so go through all these FAQs. Very, very informative, very interesting, and I think it's worth a read. I'm going to kind of leave it at that. I think I've given you some pretty solid information about Chavome. I think that you've understood the genetics industry and how it's growing exponentially. One other thing to leave you with is that there's also a Harvard genetics pioneer who wants to monetize DNA with digital currency and defeat 23andMe, right? So another guy, George Church, who is a genetics pioneer at Harvard, is actually going to be setting up a company and potentially an ICO to start building out a platform somewhat related to this as well, right? It's something that's going to be popping up here and there, and I think it's going to be popping up more and more because people understand the value here. They understand the potential here, and I think that's really, really important, guys. I'm Dan from CryptoCamacho.com. Would you invest in Chavome? What do you think about this idea? What do you think about the potential to Chavome? What do you think about this massive industry going into the blockchain space, right? I mean, I'm really curious what you guys think about it. But anyway, I'm Dan from CryptoCamacho.com. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to my YouTube channel by clicking on that little red button below. All right, guys, I will talk to you later, and I hope you enjoy this. See you later.